I'm focused on this theory cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, this is Christina Barr. You're watching Black Teen News. Hello. Welcome to Black Teen News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today I want to talk about something that I really wanted to talk about on Friday, but I was under the weather. I'm still a bit under the weather, but I'm much better. I think my voice sounds better. And my nose isn't as stuffy and stuff, so I think I can go ahead and get through an entire episode without dying on the spot. So I want to talk about how journalists, specifically Chris Krasilla, decided to issue an apology for not really pressing and covering Biden's decline, his mental decline, his health decline accurately, or pushing on it more. And they say the White House really pushed hard on people who would ask questions. And Chris is also someone who pushed hard back on people who were asking questions about Joe Biden. So the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times posted some articles about Joe Biden and how he was really protected, and there was other people stepping into roles that he should have been stepping into as president, because he has good days and he has bad days. And when you're the president, you really can't afford to have bad days. And we are not stupid. Obviously, Joe Biden has been declining. I'm not saying he's like totally like out of it, full blown Alzheimer's, doesn't know where he is. Obviously he can operate, but as people state, he has good days and bad days. And unfortunately, that just can happen when you get older, and he's very old, and time affects everyone differently. And I pretty sure we've seen signs for a long time, and I don't appreciate how we've been, I don't want to say bamboozled. I wasn't bamboozled, but they tried their darndest. So an apology is kind of late to ask for. And not only is it late to ask for, I can see why you're saying, oh, it's really bad that we didn't pay attention to Joe Biden, because there's another old person in office now. So we really got to pay attention to Trump. And so I want to go through Chris's apology and really pick it apart, I guess. I want to talk about that. Also, I want to talk about Nick Jonas. He had retweeted Elon Musk. And Nick Jonas fans are upset in his mentions and stuff. So I want to go through some of that because it's really cringe and insane. And we'll talk about some other stuff too. But before we jump into it, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate, because it does cost a stream from my website, all the good stuff, so you guys can support. I very much do appreciate it. Appreciate you guys. So if you can support, thank you. You guys can also check out different merchandise that's available at blacktnews.com. That does also help the site. You guys can also check out different books and stuff that I've written that's available on Amazon. Like, of course, God Blatantly Gets Abortion. I have a second edition that's out now. So you guys can go check that out and pick that up. You guys can pick out other books that I have. I have a bunch of mostly fiction books, but I have nonfiction books and stuff too. Only two, actually. But most of my stuff, there's something for everybody, so I encourage you guys to check it out. Very excited for next year and other books and things I'll be releasing, so be on the lookout for that. Thank you in the comments. Thank you, Bethany. Yes, I believe I do sound a lot better. So those of you not on the end, I guess, I did not do my show Friday because Thursday I was really struggling. I thought I could get through it fine, but I had to take breaks and cough and other stuff, and I was just kind of really built up with my sinuses and stuff. So, I think over the hump as far as getting better. Obviously, I'm not all the way 100% right now, but I guess we'll have the rest of vacation kind of rest up. I was not able to sing my song on Christmas. Well, not Christmas, but the Sunday before Christmas yesterday. So that was a bummer. So I didn't sing at all this weekend at church, but I did have a special like little program that, well, it wasn't really much of a program. It was like one song that I um, did with my nieces and my nephews, and it was really really cute. They did the have you heard the bells on Christmas Day by Casting Crowns? And so it's not a big part for the kids or whatever, but they're the background choir. So we had about a week to learn it. And so I got them angel costumes and halos and wings. And um, there were like these angel dresses for the girls. And I got um, these silver suspenders for my nephew, for the older one. There wasn't one small one for the baby, and I got them these like bedazzled bow ties, and they just looked great. So, it was a really really great moment. So very cute. So at least there was that, because I sure enough could I could sing well enough to sing with them and help their parts and stuff, but I just had like no chest voice. So I had a good weekend. I hope you guys had a good weekend as well, and have shopped and got all of your Christmas presents for your loved ones. I have like one more person to shop for. I also saw Sonic 3 last night, and it was great. Yeah, Sonic 3 was really, really good, and, I'm pretty sure they're probably number 1 at the box office and, performing, uh, Lion King, the Mufasa story. Let me just look it up really quick, which I'm not surprised if that's the case. Um, yeah, Sonic 3 beats Mufasa at the US box office. And I'm not surprised. That's not a mainstream article. Let me Box Office Mojo. Let's do the weekend. Oh, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, 62 million. Mufasa's at got 35. I think, did they both come out the same week, or I think they came out another week before. I don't know, but not surprised. I enjoyed Sonic. It was a lot of great not Easter eggs, but maybe Easter eggs, things that they were really, really faithful as far as like game adaptation with Sonic Adventure, and Shadow was great. It is very much a kids movie, but if you're a millennial or something and you played Sonic, grew up with Sonic, and now you're introducing your kids to Sonic and they love Sonic, it's just a great cycle, as Jim Carrey points out, where he basically hit the jackpot, where he's like a multi-generation, actor. So anyway, fun little weekend. Let's talk about the journalists, because I thought this was pretty darn humorous. So, as I said, New York Times and Wall Street Journal put out an article about Joe Biden and how he is not always there. And people were harping on Chris Chisilla because he decided to make a little apology video. So I want to rag on his little apology video, because he's a perpetrator. He's been a gatekeeper of Joe Biden as well. So this little apology ain't it. So we'll watch it together.
As a reporter, I have a confession to make. I should have pushed harder earlier for more information about Joe Biden's mental and physical well-being and any signs of decline. So let me explain. Joe Biden was president from 2020 to 2024. I worked at CNN through 2022. During that time, the early part when I was at CNN, 2020 to 2022, Republicans would regularly ping me and say, why don't you ask more questions of Joe Biden and how he's doing? He's 76, 77, 78-year-old man. And I would sort of brush them off because what I would say is, well, there's no obvious evidence that he's declining. Yeah, he moves a little slower, he talks a little slower, but there's no evidence that he's declining. And the White House and the people around Joe Biden were absolutely adamant that suggesting anything, asking the question about whether he was in some physical, mental, or both decline was offensive. How could you? It's age shaming. And I think that impacted me at some level because while I did ask the question from time to time.
Okay. He says the shaming, them saying, oh, how dare you, blah. He's like, it impacted me in some way. So before we move on and watch more, I want to add some perspective here. Okay. I gotta switch back over and show you something on Twitter. We gotta go back to Twitter because I saved something. A little blast from the past from this man we're listening to. Like, oh, I just, felt a little shamey. Okay? This man was a part of the shaming. Okay? Like many, many folks. Okay? What's that there? This has his name on it. Okay? Maybe you can't read it. Maybe it's a little too small for you guys. But it says Republicans keep trying to make Biden's mental capacity an issue. And it's by Chris Chisilla. Okay? He is a part of this. Okay? During the course of 2020 campaign, Donald Trump repeatedly tried to make Joe Biden's mental state a major issue. Biden is shot, Trump said in an interview with Fox News Channel last fall. I'm telling you, he's shot. There's something going on. It never really caught on. 41% of voters in the exit poll said that only Biden had the mental capacity and physical health to serve as president. Only Biden, okay. The same number, 41%, said that only Trump had the mental and physical stamina to do the job. Despite the issue being largely moot during the campaign, Republicans continue to keep questions about Biden's mental health front and center. The point? This is sort of gross. The man wrote gross, okay? Lowest common denominator politics that drive people away from public life. Is this really the lowest common denominator nonsense? Someone being old and questioning where they could do the job because they're abnormally old for the job? Like that's what you find gross? Those questions are gross. Come attacking people's kids or something. That's gross, right? That kind of stuff is gross. Like people being fixated on Kellyanne Conway was an advisor to the president. People being fixated on stuff that her daughter tweets or whatever because of the proximity with Kellyanne polls and Donald Trump. That kind of stuff is gross, right? That kind of stuff is gross. This is not gross. If Republicans have some sort of proof that Biden is declining, they should bring it forward. If they don't, they should stop doing what they're doing immediately. I mean, there was speculation, I guess. Did they have access to Joe Biden's medical records? Like, I'm assuming that's the kind of evidence that maybe they would have accepted. No, I would assume not. But this article came out in 2021 that he wrote where he said it was gross, people making these kind of questions. I've been talking with you guys for a while, and I certainly remember back in 2020, the campaign, and I wasn't, I don't think I was streaming every day at that point. But I would come on and stream every so often, and write about stuff. And I thought something was wrong. I was certainly tweeting I thought something was wrong during the 2020 campaign. So people just now kind of waking up and acknowledging stuff today. I think we all kind of suspected something during that campaign. And you could say it's gross, Trump and other people criticizing, but I think we all kind of tapped in and just realized something because we all have elderly people in our lives and we have eyes and we can observe. And as you get older, people just start to decline. Okay. It's an ugly reality. I don't like it, but it's the truth. Okay. Everybody slows down and then it's the people can become forgetful and it could go range on just getting pretty bad. Like my mom's mom, she passed away. She was in her right mind. She wasn't like, she was 102, so she could move around and do all the stuff that she used to do. But it wasn't like my dad's grandma who she had Alzheimer's. Okay, so people they age out. They start having different conditions that affect people differently. So not everybody's gonna be the same. But Joe Biden wasn't the same as he used to be. Okay. And what really concerned me that I noticed, and other people were talking about this. They were talking about how many lids, quote unquote, that he had. Lids are when they tell the press and stuff, we're not doing anything else today, go home. Like, you don't have to follow us, you don't have to write anything. We don't have anything else on the books today. And during the 2020 campaign, I know there was COVID and stuff. And Joe Biden got to run a basement campaign, barely got to have to go out and do anything. A lot of stuff was virtual online communications, that really benefited him, especially because Trump could work so hard during a campaign, doing rally after rally after rally after rally. It's pretty ridiculous, by the way, how much Trump outworked Kamala Harris. she's in her 50s, right? And or I think she's in her 50s. I don't think she's 60 yet, but whatever. But maybe I don't know. She could be in her 60s. I don't know. If it is 60s, it's early, but I think she's still in her 50s, maybe. He was outworking her. Trump was going past 24 hours allegedly with no sleep. And I can believe that because his schedule was just crazy. He did those 4 rallies in a day and he ended in Michigan, didn't even get there till like midnight. And I was still there. People were still there. He was just like a madman operating on fumes. But and it didn't seem like it was operating on fumes. He was still going strong. But Joe Biden, in 2020, he just didn't kind of have that energy. I'm sure like there are moments when he operated, got up there, did rallies and was pretty feisty or whatever. But he it was not normal, the amount of lids and stuff he was having. So I drew attention to that. Other people were drawing attention to that. But something that was really off to me, when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, I'm like, okay, they're really about to turn that up because this is a really, really big deal. This is really important to both sides, but obviously to them because Trump appointing someone in her spot really, really, sets the balance off kilter for them toward a really conservative direction. And of course, Trump appointed and, Amy Coney Barrett in that spot. And they argued, this is still my term. I get to fill out the seat, whatever. And which is true. But I was expecting Biden to come in with some kind of really big speech and all this. And it was just still like nothing for a little bit. There was an immediate all hands on deck. And I'm like, something is wrong. This is speculation and things we're observing, with our eyes and so on. But then it got worse as he actually became president. But now we're hearing reports that even early on, there were issues. There's, his cabinet barely met. He had to have other people step into the role. He was too tired to really have the proper communications during the Afghanistan debacle. That was very early on in his presidency. And our questions were justified. Our suspicions were justified. No, I don't have records of Joe Biden, but it just seems kind of obvious that he's just not up to task. He doesn't operate in a way that's on any level similar to what Trump did or anybody else. very, very MIA. You know, didn't do much with the press. And then there are moments where he messed up. And then it was pretty embarrassing how the Democrats and the journalists were trying to make some kind of comparisons and trying to make Trump, he's losing his mind because he's talking about sharks and batteries in the ocean. And like, no, listen to Trump's actual stories and they make sense. They can be kind of long-winded. He can like start telling another story. He's telling another story, but I don't know. To me, that's just kind of how boomers communicate. He's not a boomer, though. I think he's on a no. I think he's like the latest kind of boomer you can be. He's not in the same generation as Joe. He's like barely missed it. But my dad will tell a story and then tack on another story and then tack on another story and get back or whatever. Trump calls it the weave, right? But that's not they try to make it seem like Trump was insane rambling about crazy things. I'm like, no, I've listened to him tell these stories. It's not him being insane. There's a really famous sound of Joe Biden and he's having some kind of interview and they're like, how's your mental fitness? And he's like, oh, my mental fitness. I haven't been this great since something fly. And it and folks on like TikTok and other stuff, people have taken that sound, and that was a long time ago. That's really early, I think, in his presidency, if that was even not during the campaign. So he'll mess up and people like that, well, that's because of his stutter. Like, that's not a stutter. What's stuttering? His brain? Like, that's not a stutter. Anyway, well, let's go back to Chris and listen to his explanation. But again, I just want to remind you people that he said it was gross, these people pushing back on what he said. Okay? Thank you for the Kamala is 60. Thank you in the chat. And Trump still outworked her. That man's like a tank. And by the way, people could rightfully ask questions about him and keep on him, but I just and people will have to, honestly, but it's just really rich to me that these journalists could be like, oh, well, we screwed up with not really asking questions about Biden, so we have to make sure that we really ask about Trump. No, your time to do your job was all the time. Your time to do your job is all the time. You're a journalist. You're supposed to ask questions. But we know that the real problem is that you're on the Democrats' side and you are protecting Joe. You're protecting Joe. That's what it is. That's what it was. So, Chris, you could say, oh, they made you feel really bad. I'm sure they did. But you were an arm of the Democrat Party. You and CNN and other journalists. And you can't just suddenly find religion when Biden's out of office. I know that's how they operate, though. Fact checkers are suddenly like, oh, let me dust off my notebook and my pen and get to writing. And let me really, really start fact checking now. I know people talk about how much Donald Trump lies. I don't actually think that he exaggerates a lot of details and stuff. So if you're gonna fact check and every little thing they may say, every little exaggeration, every little number that might be off, and maybe that's your job or whatever. But they do not take the same vigorous approach. And admittedly, to them, they don't take the same vigorous approach with Joe Biden and other Democrats as they do with Donald Trump, because they've just made up in their mind that Donald Trump is different. He's such a threat. He's so dangerous that they have to treat him basically like a hostile. Well, we'll just say hostile. If you watch Lost, that's what they referred to the people on the living in the forest and stuff, I think, right? Or is that what the island people called? One of them called each other the hostiles. I haven't watched Lost in a while. I haven't rewatched in a while. I that was a good show. Anyway,
not directly the White House, but aides and people around in that orbit, I didn't really push on it, if I'm being honest. Now, once I left CNN and once it became a little bit more clear to me about Biden's age, I think I did write pretty regularly and talk pretty regularly about how I wasn't sure that this guy was up to it. And then obviously after the June 27th debate, everybody, including me, was writing and talking about it.
The debate just happened. The debate just happened. It just happened. People saying, oh, well, wait. By the way, Caitlin Collins, like he talked about how what is it about CNN then? Because he said, oh, CNN, people didn't really ask questions. And that's when during that time when he was at CNN, that's when he wrote that article. And Caitlin Collins went on, I think Bill Maher. It might have been when she was on Bill Maher, but she talked about how, she's basically patting herself on the back, and the media was patting themselves on the back because she thought that they were pretty fair because they covered Joe Biden, and the questions about his mental health and stuff. But that was after the debate. That was when they wanted to get rid of him. Before they wanted to get rid of him, or they probably wanted to get rid of him before, but he was the nominee and he was going to run, whatever. So they were going to drag his corpse over the finish line as they could. Before everybody could see him implode on the debate stage, it was, those are cheap fakes. What are you talking about? Joe Biden is fine. Morning Joe, not only was Joe Biden great, he was better than he's ever been. The craziest things that they would say about him, the craziest, absolute garbage stuff that everyone knew wasn't the case. Do you know how many videos there are of Joe Biden during 2020 or whatever on the campaign trail? And he has a mask on, and he takes off the mask and he coughs in his hand and he puts the mask back on, and it's just gravelly, kind of sick voice. And I'm like, who coughs in their hand like that? Like, you teach kids not to do that, and there's a pandemic. And he just looked bad, sounded bad, just, this is usually a young man's game or younger man's game. I mean, and it ages you a lot. I don't know what Trump's deal is, where, I don't know, maybe he was just dipped in amber and that's why his skin is that color. He's just been preserving himself and his organs. But Biden, to say, oh, after the debate, everyone covered it. Yeah, because the cat was out of the bag. You guys don't get a gold medal for reporting something that everyone knows. It's not breaking news anymore, bro.
The reason that I bring this up is in the last 48 hours, there have been two stories, one by the New York Times and one by the Wall Street Journal, that document the decline of Joe Biden and how we probably should have known then and reported then what we know now. So let me just read a little bit of the Wall Street Journal piece, which is based off of 50, that's me drawing it for some unknown reason, 50 interviews with people in and around Biden. I'm just going to read a bit. To adapt the White House around the needs of a diminished leader, they told visitors to keep meetings focused. Interactions with senior Democratic lawmakers and some cabinet members, including powerful secretaries such as Defense's Lloyd Austin and Treasury's Janet Yellen, were infrequent or grew less frequent. Some legislative leaders had a hard time getting the president's ear at key moments, including ahead of the U.S.'s disastrous pullout from Afghanistan. Senior advisors were often put into roles that some administration officials and lawmakers thought Biden should occupy, with people such as National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, Senior Counselor Steve Ricchetti, and National Economic Council head Lael Brainerd, and her predecessor frequently in the position of being go-betweens for the president. Press aides who compiled packages of news clips for Biden were told by senior staff to exclude negative stories about the president. The president wasn't talking to his own pollsters, as surveys showed him trailing in the 2024 race. I'm looking up the New York Times piece because I want to quote from the New York Times piece as well. That is pretty damning. Then there's this, the headline, New York Times, this is earlier this week, a weary Biden heads for the exits. This is the twilight of Mr. Biden's presidency, the final days of the final chapter of an epic half-century political journey that has more than its share of twists and turns. Time is catching up with Mr. Biden. He looks a little older and a little slower with each passing day. Aides say he remains plenty sharp in the Situation Room, calling world leaders to broker a ceasefire in Lebanon or a deal with the chaos of Syria's rebellion. But it is hard to imagine that he seriously thought he could do the world's most stressful job for another 4 years. Okay, I know that's a lot of text that I read, but that's what's got me thinking about the fact that I probably should have pushed harder on the Biden age stuff. Because in retrospect, it's clear that the people close to him knew that at best he had some good days and some bad days. June 27th, the debate clearly was a bad day. But if the bad day was that bad as he performed on that debate stage, the fact that he had been president without a whole lot of questions being asked about his physical and mental decline. And I'll add the fact that he continued to be president from June 27th until January 20th, 2025, I think is a little bit concerning and begs the question of like, when did people near him know? What did they know? And why did they not share? I get protecting Biden's privacy, but he's the president of the United States, right? Like this isn't just your grandpa who you want to like take the keys from, but you're not to his car, but you're not totally sure how to approach it. This is the sitting president of the United States who will continue to be after June 27th, was the president for another 6 months.
He's the president right now.
And we don't know how far back signs of this physical and mental decline went. And again, I don't put it just on myself or just on journalists, because I know journalists did ask, and I can tell you, I mean, I know from my experience, there was a shame factor that went into that. People around Biden worked to make you feel bad when you asked whether he was up to the job of being president, running for president again, and serving as president for another 4 years. How could you? And they did a very good job, at least until they couldn't hide it anymore, of hiding it, of making it so that it was very hard to know. Yes, but he didn't do a lot of press conferences. Yes, he didn't do a lot of media interviews. But, when he did things, the thing I always remember is he gave the State of the Union speech earlier this year, and he was fine. There were no obvious signs of decline. I mean, yes, he looked like an 80-year-old guy, but I wasn't like, this man cannot under no circumstances be president. So they did a good job of hiding it for a long time. But
this is crazy. This is crazy though, guys, because State of the Union, he didn't bomb that out. It was a terrible State of the Union address. I couldn't believe, like, when you listen to it, I'm like, there's all this stuff about Ukraine and other stuff, but what about the border? People were waiting to see if he was going to say something about Laken Riley, and then he said Laken Riley, but he said her name wrong. And I don't even think he brought it up. I don't know if he planned to bring it up. Like someone, I think threw out the name or something, and he got heckled a bit. And it was definitely not a great one. Like Donald Trump had great State of the Union speeches. I remember one time, one of the State of the Union speeches Trump gave, my sister called me, and one of my younger sisters, and she's just like, why do people not like him? She's like, this seems like a really great speech, and there's a lot of great things going on in America. She's like, why do people not like him? I'm like, they decided not to. They listen to mainstream media, and I'm like, I mean, at the State of the Union, you are like kind of giving your greatest hits and stuff, but Joe Biden was always so negative too. So he always had like terrible State of the Unions. Did he like just bomb on his face? No, but there are other moments. And he said the White House, they would shame people, and that's true. But he was part of that shaming brigade for a little bit though. And so what if they push back? So what if they shame? Like they're trying to obviously protect Joe Biden. They're his staff, they're his team. So yeah, they're gonna push back hard, but you have to get the truth. That's your job. That's your job. It's supposed to be your job. You're supposed to tell the truth to the American people, for the American people, and we can make our own decisions. And if you're properly informed, maybe Joe Biden, the 25th Amendment would have been invoked earlier or at all, or whatever, and we would have been in a different spot. Unfortunately, Kamala Harris would still be the president or whatever. And maybe she would have been in a better position to be to go up against Donald Trump, or maybe she wouldn't have. I don't know. Depends how crappy of a job she would have did, which probably would have been really bad. But I don't know how much worse it could have been than what we already were. So probably still would have been in the same position. But the point is, you had a responsibility, and y'all were part of the opposition. You weren't a part of the group trying to really inform the American people. If you want to talk about a moment where he failed on the world stage, after Robert Hur did his interviews with Joe Biden, which he, I think the articles and stuff touched on that too. He obviously didn't do well. And Hur said, okay, well, he did have classified documents that he willfully retained because he, had them, whatever, when he was sharing them with the autobiographer. So he obviously did the crime. But there's no point in going forward and charging him with something, because the jury's going to feel really bad about him anyway. And they're going to let him off because he's an old man who doesn't have a good memory. And there's no point. They're not going to convict him. I can understand that point of view. Plus, he's a president. It's just really messy. He's the president anyway. Blah, blah, blah. And the left and the media, Kamala Harris, they were so upset about this obviously true stuff that Hur was saying. And then Biden and them were like, how dare you bring up my son? And you brought up my son and stuff. And if you actually looked at the transcript and stuff, it was like, no, you actually like brought up stuff. And then after he was quote unquote cleared in his eyes, he had a press conference that was, I guess, his idea, because I don't know why his staff would let that happen, but apparently it was his idea. And what can you do, when it comes to the president? And then he was like confusing names, and then he was trying to be so offended about them mentioning his son, which, he mischaracterized what happened, or maybe misremembered what happened. And then he said, I remember when we got that rosary at, and then he couldn't remember the thing that he was so adamant about bringing up to defend his memory and stuff. It was just so bad. It was so disastrous. So yeah, he has good days and he has bad days, but that was a really bad day, especially when you're trying to defend your mind. So I know people forget, stumble their words, lose thoughts or whatever. But that was rough. That was rough. It did not make her testimony look silly. And Kamala Harris said that it was wrong on the face of the facts, like on just all of it was wrong and offensive, and how dare he as a prosecutor. So I saw some people after these reports came out saying that the 25th Amendment was definitely trending on X, and people were saying that, that needs to be invoked and Kamala Harris needs to be the president. There's only a little bit of time left. Why would Joe let that happen? I guess if she really wanted to make it happen, maybe they can make it happen, but it's kind of like, for what? Just to say that a woman was president for a couple days, a couple weeks. It's not worth it now. We're almost in January, guys. It's almost a new year. We're almost at the new president. It'll be silly. But the issue is that she's also a problem. She was also in on it. She must have known. It's ridiculous to not have known. And if you missed it, that's a really big problem too. So let's say that the 25th Amendment should be invoked. You ought to impeach her before you invoke it. She didn't do her duty either. She must have known. And you can't tell me that after they interviewed 50 people and put out an article, that's when the moment she'd finally be like, oh my gosh, he can't be president anymore. It just makes everybody look bad, including her. So, I know his debate was really bad. It wasn't, there's things that he said that sounded okay if you read the transcript or whatever, didn't watch it all happen, but just the split screen with him versus Trump, the optics were so bad. some of his answers, like how he just fumbled the ball on abortion when he brought up the border and said the thing about you might need an abortion because you might get impregnated by your sister or something crazy like that. He was just off the wall. Um, and then they tried to blame it on cold, and his voice wasn't great. I don't think it was because of the cold that he did so badly. Um, but then he went to Waffle House to like mingle with voters. Why are you spreading your cold around, sir? If you're sick, go home and rest. Why'd you go to the Waffle House to prove that you can still go out there and campaign and do the job? It was just PR stuff. Like it was like do you guys remember when people were saying Hillary Clinton was sick and she like passed out during the September 11th ceremony thing, and they're trying to get her in the van and she's just like passed out, like hanging over. And the only reason we knew about it because people are armed with cell phones. And then after that happened, they must have doped her up with something to get her out there. Something, there were people saying that there was a body double or something out there. But there was a little girl. She's like, "Hi, little girl," on the street. And then later she said that she had pneumonia or something like that. And I'm like, why did she go find a child to infect after that? Like if she was like, why send her back on the street? Because they just wanted to prove that she was okay. It's just PR nonsense. It's just PR nonsense. Let's watch some more, because he's saying, "Oh, I made a mistake. I made a mistake," and I think there's a reason why he's admitting it, other than the fact that it's all, common knowledge now.
Journalists, and I put myself here. You've got to. We should have been pushier. We should have. I should have. I don't want to speak for everyone. I should have not let the shame campaign to make you feel bad for asking the question get to me, because it's now.
Oh, I also wanted to mention, it's not just the White House that we're shaming. If you ask Joe Biden, he was very like a snapping turtle old man about it. He would push people, and he would even kind of threaten them a bit, like, "Oh, I can do as many push-ups and I can do this, so you can take it outside." Like he would really push back if you asked about his mental capacity, physical capacity. A lot of times he would just say, "Watch me do it." That's, but there's some times where he get really, really angry about it, and some people, they get older and they get they're just so sweet at their core, and some people, they just get really mean as they get older. And Joe Biden was kind of mean. Like they try to make it seem like he's a nice guy, but if you're not on the right side, he can get really mean.
How clear from both the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times piece that there was real deterioration even before. And by the way, all the reporting that we've seen since the June 27th debate, it's not just these two stories, that there was real and significant decline in Joe Biden, and that it was being managed by the people around him. They were insulating him. They were keeping sort of the political world out, and keeping him sort of bunkered in. And that should have been something we knew more about. Now,
And I do also want to point out that it's not just how slow moving he was, or the lack of interviews that he was doing, or the lack of meetings that he was having with his cabinet. Um, Even when he would take questions, we would see that they'd have cards with the journalists, their names, who they're with, which, those that kind of prep, I don't think is crazy uncommon or whatever. Um, but they'd have like questions. It seemed like they'd have questions and a little some answers. But even when he was having cabinet meetings and stuff, they would tell people to keep their conversations very brief, to the point, and it's like submit your questions and things you want to talk about like in advance. And in some regard, I don't think that's the craziest thing. Like you want to make sure that you know what you want to ask so they can be kind of prepared for it. But it just seemed like all these things together, it's because they really, really needed to prepare him because he's kind of losing it, that he wasn't able to kind of freestyle with a lot of stuff because he's just not with it. In one meeting they had to like all just cancel altogether because he was having a really bad day. So there were signs out there. They just didn't want they wanted to cover for their guy just like the White House was covering for their guy. And maybe they didn't see it that way, but deep down, like he said, they made you feel bad. Why did he allow them to make him feel so bad that he wouldn't seek the truth and help the truth get out there to the American people as a journalist? Because deep down, he's protected his side. You know, whether he's doing it subconsciously or maliciously, helping his side. And there's a reason why there's a little turn here, in my opinion.
Now, you can argue, well, what does it matter? Biden eventually got out of the race, and it's not like it's sure, but he's been the president for the last 4 years. So it's critically important. And we've learned, by the way, questions about presidential health, mental and physical health, whether it's Ronald Reagan or Kennedy or FDR, we've seen a lot of it. Trump, we've seen a lot of this where there is a lack of transparency. So we need to learn our lesson, I think. Donald Trump's going to come into office in his late 70s. So we know very little about his medical history.
Okay.
I think we as journalists need to keep asking questions. Have you seen any signs of his mental or physical decline? Now, his aides may just say, no, he's great, 100%. But keep digging. If there are those signs, there will be the people who are worried about it. And we should have gotten to those people with Biden more and more frequently to accurately represent what was happening in the White House and then let the public make up their own mind. But I think at least for the first couple of years of his presidency, maybe the first 3 years, the image of him as a older but hale and hearty older man prevailed. And I'm not sure, based on these two stories, the Journal story and the Time story, I'll link to both below, but also just all the reporting we've seen since June 27th, since the debate, I'm not sure that was an accurate, in fact, I don't think at all that was an accurate depiction of his physical and mental state. Even if he had good days and bad days, well, he had bad days.
So, I want to go back to, I'm not going to replay it, but he said, oh, we missed all the stuff with Biden. There were important questions to ask. And now we have Donald Trump, who's going to be the oldest person who's been in office. So it's really important to ask the questions now. And even if his aides push back, it's still really important to ask the questions now because we have to get to the truth. We have to get to the truth. We screwed up with Biden. So we got to make sure now, egg on my face then, shame on me. But now, we got to make sure that the truth is out there. Because now we really learned our lesson. And maybe on some level that's true, okay? But I just think it's really convenient that you've learned your lesson now, and now you got to make sure that when the aides say, hey, they're fine, well, the aides could be lying. And the aides could always be lying. The White House and people around it could always be lying. It's true for every admin, okay? But it's not, but it's obviously not just the case with the Trump administration. It was the case with the Biden administration. And the Biden administration is now over, okay? So you miss your shot to do accurate journalism, to do journalism with integrity. And now you're apologizing because you're going to have to do your job now, things that you should have did during when, Biden's administration. Now you're going to have to actually do those things with Trump, and you're not going to feel bad when the aides tell you, that he's fine and you want to push back. But that's not just because you learned your lesson with Joe. It's because he's Trump and you want to push back on him. And the journalists are going to want to push back on him. They're going to want to push back on the Republicans and so on. Now, I do think we need to have questions about these people and their health and all kinds of stuff. I do. I think some of these people are too old. It's crazy to me that, Mitch McConnell was like the best person in the game in the Senate, like he's especially like operating from like the into the Obama administration into the Trump administration, how they, push those judges and stuff through, and the whole um uh basically denying Garland the seat and stuff. Just, how he administered and wielded power in the Senate, he did a good job with that. And as far as raising money for candidates and other stuff, he's done a good job with that. I'm not saying I love him, but whatever. Someone in the comments going term limits, but yeah, but he still had that really scary. I would say it was scary. There's a lot of jokes and memes about him, on TikTok and stuff. That looks scary to me. The way that he phased out, and wouldn't respond when they were talking to him, and so he like stepped aside as far as leadership, but he's still in there. He needs to go kind of have a seat. There was another story about a woman, a GOP congresswoman, who they found at a nursing home or something. It's like, excuse me, she's got dementia, and I'm sorry, y'all didn't know where she was, and she just out here with dementia somewhere. And y'all just kind of, I'm like, somebody knew she was in that place with her dementia, and you know, um she should not still have her position. Let me see if I bookmarked it or saved it or something. There was a congresswoman. Retiring Texas congresswoman who has missed votes since July, experiencing dementia issues, Sun says. Retiring Texas congresswoman, former House Appropriations Committee Chair Kay Granger has been experiencing dementia issues in recent months and is living in an independent living facility. Her son, Brandon Granger, told the Dallas Morning News on Sunday, "It's been a hard year," he said, according to Texas publication. Brandon Granger also told the outlet that his mother is living at Tradition Senior Living in Fort Worth, Texas, but she is not in memory care facility, as some media outlets have reported. Okay, not Rupp Granger's son and a congressional office both said the 81-year-old congresswoman is not in a memory care. There's nothing wrong with someone wanting to live in a community with other folks their age, Brandon Granger said, according to the Dallas Morning News. In a statement provided by the congresswoman's office, Granger said her health challenges have progressed since September and thanked her family and constituents for their support. "I'm deeply grateful for the outpouring of care and concern over the past several days. As many of my family, friends, and colleagues have known, I've been navigating some unforeseen health challenges over the past year. However, since early September, my health challenges have progressed, making frequent travel to Washington both difficult and unpredictable. During this time, my staff has remained steadfast, continuing to deliver exceptional constituent services as they have for the past 27 years." 27 years! There's people who've been in there longer than 27 years, though. But Granger said in a written statement provided by CNN by her office, a source familiar with the congresswoman's situation told CNN that she moved into an independent living facility to downsize and prepare for the future. The person added that if the congresswoman had known she was unable to vote in the final 6 weeks of the 118th Congress, there would have been different preparations. Granger last voted in the House floor on July 24th, according to CNN review of her voting record. Granger last year announced she would not seek re-election and is this spring stepping down as chair of the influential House Appropriations Committee. She did not vote in the recent package to prevent the government shutdown. "As I announced my decision not to seek re-election, I am encouraged by the next generation of leaders in my districts. It's time for the next generation to step up and take the mantle and be strong and fierce representative of the people." Um, so there's term limits are appealing. There's always issues, you could say, with term limits. The people can always decide to not reelect people. Um, of course, once someone has a machine going and It's just easy to win when you're incumbent, very hard to take out an incumbent, but not impossible. But a lot of times people get accustomed. They like the person who's in there, and once you're used to somebody, and someone new can be unpredictable, and you just kind of get used to just voting in the same person and over and over and over again. So age maximums could be a thing that we could consider. And if anyone's like, no, we shouldn't do that, we do have minimum ages that you have to reach to have certain positions. I don't think it's so crazy to say once you reach a certain age, maybe you need to kind of consider retiring. But I don't know, you never know when you might have some kind of crazy health scare. Dementia issues. But anyway, life, it sucks to get older, it sucks to age. And, if you're fortunate to get to that point where you can live a really long life, that's a blessing all in itself. But people have to learn to pass the torch earlier, man. They really, really do. They really do. But yeah, they can go ahead and ask. I don't have a problem with people asking questions about Trump. But some of they brought up things on the campaign trail. I'm like, he's obviously fine, and they're bringing up stuff to make him seem crazy. They wanted to take all this energy with us pointing out that Joe Biden was unwell, and they tried to push that on Trump. And it was so. And as soon as Biden got out the race, it's like, oh, old people are bad. He's too old. Oh my gosh. Oh, he's losing it. It was so transparent, the sort of tactics they were using. But, Trump sitting down for those long podcasts for hours, people hearing him talk, were like, no, he's fine. He's not crazy. What are you talking about? He operated and moved in a way that Kamala and Joe both could not do. And, but they tried. But, he will be the oldest person who has served. And I think he could probably get through 4 years. If it doesn't seem like he can, guess what? People need to talk about it. Journalists need to report it. People need to know. Decisions need to be made. And hopefully, if he got to a point, he would step aside gracefully, and JD, I guess, would be president. And there wouldn't need to be some kind of 25th Amendment power struggle. Which I kind of don't foresee that kind of happening. But hopefully, everyone would do the right thing for the nation. But journalists have not. And I wouldn't be ragging on Chris, another journalist, if they were fair and had done their due diligence the whole entire time. I want them to do their due diligence when it comes to Trump. I'm going to do my due diligence. But they did not do their due diligence when it came to Biden. And that's just the truth. It's just the truth. You can say you learned a lesson, but you're a grown man. You're all grown people doing this job for a while. And you should have known better. You should have did better. So you're just not slick. You're just not slick. Oh, we learned our lesson. Oh, now we gotta make sure we, don't let the AIDS distract us. Okay. Whatever. Whatever. Anyway, I wanna talk about this Joe Jonas thing really quick. We talked about that for a long time. I'm sorry, Nick Jonas. Sorry. The Jonas Brothers, back in the day, still today, but really back in the day, big phenomenons for folks. Well, some of the fans are upset because Nick Jonas tweeted something that was a pretty darn good tweet. It's a pretty good darn tweet, okay? So we're gonna go through the tweets because it was a good tweet. So there was this tweet from Tesla owners Silicon Valley. So wait, everyone thought Elon was destroying the brand of Tesla and he shouldn't be involved in politics. Tesla is up 100% since Donald Trump won. Okay? So they tweeted out this article about Tesla's success. And so Elon Musk then tweeted out this, how the tables have turned. And so this is a pretty like famous gif, a meme or whatever of the Jonas Brothers just like turning the tables and be like, "Oh, look how the tables have turned." Okay? So they, just cheesy little stuff. Okay? So then Nick Jonas tweets out a picture of Elon saying, "Take us to the year 3000." Now, the year 3000 was a song that the Jonas Brothers did back in the day. I was not a Jonas stan or whatever, but they were on Disney in an era when my younger sisters were watching Disney Channel. And it was on all the time. It was on in my bedroom because I was in a bedroom with three of my other sisters. We had bunk beds, and that TV was on all the time on the Disney Channel, or the Disney Channel was on a lot in the main TV room if my mom wasn't watching, Blade 2 while she was doing laundry, or The Punisher, the Thomas Jane version. But we watched those a lot in my house. Yeah, if she wasn't watching something like that, the kids might be watching Disney Channel, have that on or whatever. The only things I really, really wanted to watch were I guess we were watching Smallville, Supernatural, stuff like that back in the day, but usually like Toonami, Block. That's when I like to have the TV and stuff because we watch like Dragon Ball Z and stuff like that. But they love the Disney Channel, and so the year 3000 is a song about the future and space travel and all this other kind of stuff. Got this futuristic stuff that it's in there, and so Elon Musk wants to go to Mars, builds rocket ships or whatever. So it's not that crazy to have this kind of chain. It seems really kind of perfect, like the kind of moment that Twitter, aka X, was built for. Okay. But some of his fans were not so happy about it. Okay. So I want to go through. We'll see how many of these tweets survive the weekend. Nick, stop this. We all prayed for you in social studies class when you announced your diabetes in the middle of the day. Like, good that you prayed for him. I used to pray to God to take your diabetes away. I guess they feel that that is now a bad thing. Okay. Um, all right. Thanks for the prayers back then. Oops, and there goes the last remnants of your image. Be prepared to make a tad less money on future projects. I'm sure he'll miss your couple dollars on iTunes. Um, let's see. Wait, you're showing your support for Elon right before coming to Broadway? Oof, man. Really bad timing. The Broadway community, we are made up of everyone who Elon, among with his MAGA bestie, is trying to silence. I was in auditions to understudy you. So glad I didn't get it. Now, I was talking my youngest sister is the one who told me about this situation, and she was reading to me some of these tweets. And when we got to that one, I'm like, why? If you were an understudy, wouldn't you want to get the part of his understudy and kind of hope that maybe he actually like literally breaks a leg or something and then you get to take his job? That's what I would think would be a better sort of revenge, not you simply not being good enough to get the understudy position. But whatever, whatever. Um, Okay, that someone said it's sad how people suddenly feel amidst disgust once they realize you have a difference of opinion. You don't have to change this view of yours to pander to others. It's okay. Um, not much has changed, but we live underwater. Um, that's aside from the song. Who got a red laser I could borrow? I hope one day your daughter meets a man who treats her like Elon and the rest of his friends treat women. Let's see how supportive you are then. He did was tweet something said, take us to the year 3000, a man who builds rockets. Delete this now. This man is horrible, and even if this was meant as just a joke, it's not funny. I I think it all kind of fits together. I think it was pretty good. Nick, your fans don't appear to be too happy. What now? This he's going to take us 3000 years into the past. Just take a look at the people he supports. Be better, Nick. Don't give attention to a-holes who take advantage of people. 3000 years in the past. We're going before Jesus time, guys. That's where Elon is going to take us back to. I think if he could do that, like time travel, that I think that would actually be pretty impressive. I wouldn't be surprised if Elon was trying to actually do something along those lines. That would be pretty amazing. Now, Elon seems like a pretty genuine, interesting guy who wants to uh I don't know, make it advance the human condition. You know, the reason why he took over Twitter was because he didn't like the stifling of free speech, and there was the whole Babylon Bee being censored for making a joke, which was true, whatever, like calling Rachel Levine, who's a man who was the assistant health secretary, he's trans. And so they said he got man of the year. Their account got locked out. Elon didn't like it. And that started, you know, down the path of like buying Twitter and stuff. And he did successfully buy it. And that ended up being a very good thing for I think the country, that he did buy Twitter. And we got to see a lot of the ugly business for censorship. They're talking about people, the Elon wanted to silence people. Kamala Harris was very pro censorship. She's very pro censoring speech she doesn't like. And so the bigger threat to your freedoms and your liberties was definitely the Kamala Harris and the Democrats, not Donald Trump. But people don't want to see it. People don't want to listen. People just, their friend said something because their friend heard something on Reddit or TikTok or, Instagram or the news or something, and they repeat it, and it just becomes like this mob mentality. People saying that they act like they regret that they were praying that your diabetes went away just because they tweet out something is really, really remarkable. It's really sad. And I would be so embarrassed if I was them to say such a thing. So um I don't know what's wrong with these people. I don't know, man. I don't know. People said this is a Trump post. Priyanka, get your man. Uh, before I block you, what did you do? What did you want from Dan? How? Not sure what that is. A tweet. Amazing how many people legit offended by this post. No one got emotional about Elon talking to Cenk Uygur or replying to John Fetterman. Do y'all even consider that you act a lot like zealots in a cult? They absolutely do. You know, um, there's a lot of geniuses out there that do a lot as far as building, creating, and stuff, and they don't have, you know, the best kind of personal lives or so on, but you still can appreciate the innovation, appreciate the genius, buy their products or whatever. It's just life. But a lot of the things that he's done, it seems like he's really trying to advance humanity. Now, if some of the things that he does, I don't know, starts like a Skynet kind of apocalypse, that would be obviously terrible. But it seems they're more concerned about a tweet than they are about any of that happening. So people are weird. People are weird. Just grow up, guys. Just grow up. It was a perfectly good tweet. that did not announce support. But what's really crazy to me about these fans being so upset is it really that far fetched to just kind of hypothesize that Jonas Brothers or Nick or whoever would probably like Elon, would maybe like Donald Trump, or if they don't like him, just maybe more like the Republicans more than like Democrats. Like I know the image that they portrayed back in the day with the purity rings and all that, like that we're so sweet, we're so Disney or whatever, wasn't exactly what was the reality, but they did come from a family that was religious and so on, and kind of, more could seem like was kind of more on the conservative side. Would it be really that they're young men? Would it really be that crazy that they were more on the right? There's a lot of folks out there who are on the right, but they're just not going to talk about it. And that's fine because they're entertainers. And some things we need to have where we can just kind of bridge the gap and enjoy things together and not make everything so freaking political. We need those spaces. We need those but more importantly, we need to learn to not just attack each other and destroy each other and regret praying that their diabetes goes away just because you don't see everything eye to eye about politics. You know, I to the person who said, I hope his daughter in the future meets someone is treated the way that Elon and his friends treats women. I would want that. And it's a terrible thing to wish on people. Now, I wish they would do better or whatever, their lives as it would, marry a girl and then impregnate a girl and then live a happy kind of um white picket fence lifestyle, traditional kind. I would wish that for Elon. I would wish that for for Trump and stuff. I wish he did have like three wives in his background, but it is what it is, and you just hope people get better. But to wish bad things on people, that's just not not even on the person you dislike, on their daughter. Like you're not good people. You're not good people. Uh, someone said, dang, dude, must be nice not having to balance paying for insulin at the expense of any other bills. How does it feel? Like, it's just a tweet, man. People acted shocked about this development as if the Jonas Brothers aren't just three non college educated white evangelical men from New Jersey. Like, statistically, the most likely demographic to buy into Trump must whole deal. Sorry. Um, exactly what I just said. Trump lost New Jersey by like a small amount. New Jersey could one day be a swing state, man. Swing state. It's a quick question. Who did you vote for? Who do y'all think he voted for? Who do you think? Someone said, I knew there was a reason why I was never a fan of y'all. Take us to the year 2028 so we don't have to witness another Trump term. Well, I got news for you, pal. 2028 would be the election year. 2028 would be the next election year. So you'd still be at the tail end of a Trump presidency. So sorry. Someone said they're all just making big assumptions. They are. Oh no, someone said Mario will get him before then. Wow. Talk about that shooter. This is crazy. No. This is a tire up gift of the I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. This is so silly. So silly. Make celebrities normal again. Bro, you didn't have to tweet this. They're saying it. You know how heartbreaking it is to see that you more than likely support DT will have to unfollow you after all these years. I don't make exceptions. Okay. Anyway, these are some silly times, some silly people. Silly times and silly people. Just if you like Nick Jonas for Nick Jonas. Nick Jonas hasn't changed. If you like Nick Jonas because of his music is still his music. His voice is still his voice. His talents are his talents. And you can like him for that. Okay? Nothing has changed. You still don't even know. You don't have conclusive evidence of how he voted or if he likes Elon or whatever. He might just think it's cool that he builds rockets. That is pretty cool. It's objectively cool. Okay? Whether you like him or not. Okay? Anyway, that's all, guys, for today. Hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you all for my well wishes as far as my health and stuff. And I like I said, I believe I'm like over the hump as far as how I feel, but still a little stuffy. More stuffy is the more I talk or whatever, but feeling better. So tomorrow I'm trying to see when we shall do another show. Should I just vacation out the rest of the year? Tomorrow is Christmas Eve, obviously. I'm not gonna do a show on Christmas, obviously. I think New Year's Eve is on Tuesday. I think yes, people saying enjoy your holiday. Thank you so much. Thank you. I hope you guys have a nice Christmas. Make sure you guys spend it with family. I know some people dread spending it with family and don't think it's a big deal, but you know, spend time with your family while you can. I would have never anticipated that, you know, last Christmas would be the last one I would spend with my mom, and this will be the she had shopped early. She would shop year round. There was some stuff for some siblings she didn't get stuff for but she got some stuff for me. So I'll be opening up like my last gifts for my mom this Christmas. So, you know, just take time and spend it with your family and appreciate them and hug them and love them and tell them you love them and so on. And I hope you guys really enjoy your Christmas, enjoy your holiday, and I'm thinking we'll have another show before New Year's. I don't think this is gonna be the last one of the year, but I'm probably gonna have one Tuesday or Christmas, and maybe not the day after Christmas. So if I have another show this week, it'll be on this Friday. But Wilson, please rest. We'll rest. I'll rest. I don't know if I'll have another one this week. But I know I'll probably have one next week. I just don't want this to be the last one of the year. I just feel like we have another show before the end of the year. I'll tell you guys online if I do one on Friday. I'm sorry if I don't have this plan in advance. I'm trying to figure it out while I talk to you, but anyway. Thank you guys for joining me. I was dying to talk about this Chris Cazella thing. And it's so stupid. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. And I was on Friday, I was like, I'm so sick and I can't talk about it on my show. I need to talk about it. So anyway, thank you guys. And I'll see you when I see you. Enjoy your Christmas. New Year's party stream. I wish I could do a New Year's I could do a stream on New Year's Eve. But as far as like the coming in the night, we always have a watch night service and I can't miss that. So I'll be in church, and if you're in the area, I would love if you joined me. But that's what we do every night. We start, I mean, every New Year's Eve, we have service. We're gonna start at like 10 o'clock, and we're gonna bring in the New Year's at church. So I would maybe love to do it, but I even thought about like pre-programming it, but that would still be weird because people reacting, and I wouldn't be able to react to them. So yeah, I can't. I thought about it, but I just can't not go to church. I'm sorry. So that's why I'm not gonna do like a New Year's stream night thing. But maybe something. We'll see. Merry Christmas to all of you. Merry Christmas. And I'll see you after Christmas. God bless.